Welcome to Season 3 of On the Spot.
Now, the reality is that many children as young as 10 are being forced into prostitution due to some leading factors like poverty, trafficking, sexual and gender-based violence. A significant number of those kids cited rape as their first sexual experience. A 2017 report by the Child and Youth Foundation states that almost 2 in 4 girls between the ages of 12 and 18 are engaged in casual sex work. It is so alarming, the growing prevalence rate and the social acceptance of this, as in many cases where the kids are still within some form of a family structure, their guardians are usually aware of their acts because these kids support the family through this means.
I be there 11 years. I lost my mama and I lost sabi me papa. Before when my mama be don't die, we go there na McDonald's with me 2 small sister them. My granny not be able for feed week, so I decide for come free town. And what can not get nobody na free town. I meet up one pick where they call Susan, but na be a day, na be street speaking. So I decided for go day with him, na be every day while they week, and then they get chop for it. And Susan they tell me say before you eat, you have to go friend and force. So na net they get different places them, or they go there for money. Sometimes the man they take advantage by we, you go do sex, then they pay you. Sometimes they would go per ship. You do load by the boat, you go meet them at the ship. Sometimes they pay you. They need to say you see now for the dog. And dog they go follow you and give you money. If you die there, they throw in the water. Or sometimes the way they don't use you say you're hopeless. They say you don't get stamina for clean up, they send inside the water. Even to the police them, if they catch you in a net, they hold you. If you don't get money, they go later with you. They left you. I begin to take different drugs and I left for go school. So what I don't go fair now, I go to my granny. She asked me, say, what I pull this morning? I say, I walk, and they walk na tongue because I'm not gonna tell them. So I pull the money. Even when they go na net, I for take drugs. They can call it tramadol because if you not take them, you need to get sex reach 2 man them. I begin to take kush, I begin to smoke jamba, and they take all kind of drugs. One net, then take we, na one place, but something like a lodge. They go to inside the man. It called big money, I be 500,000 for one person. And 500,000, let's say for day, the net done. No able get 500,000 because someone they come say na 5,000 get. You just get for accept because you know get no side for pull. So we go with 3, we did it. Say go was and come. Now drink one drink. Now Susan draw the drawer. They meet so nef at the door. So in be the was for common ado. I will take one of the nef, will chap the window, up the ceiling. I'll come out to for them. The mark then on my back up to now. But my main I see we rescue, we'll go back down pay. But still we don't stop because if we stop we get side for eat. From 11 years to 15 years I did not state. With Boku we don't die in a state. But man a sickness the killer. One woman they call Mama Mary from Don Bosco. In Kikande, in Kikana baby for can talk to me. Now go there. Now say una come na head office for make una come for father want talk to una. So father can talk to me. I go consider that I see as in a good thing because I don't see beaucoup people and they lost their life or they die, they get sick, drugs they kill them. One day now come back. Now I talk to father. I say I don't decide for Don Bosco, but my only problem now how for take care of me sister with my granny. And father say that they not a problem. We go help you small by your granny. So I go for Don Bosco. I get serious infection. Thank God they admit me, they go to in hospital. I be want brighter future for myself, but no be better. It's just like circumstances. My biggest happen. I go long south to the sisters them. I go there for 2.5 years. They pray, they preach to me. So I decide for change, become better person in society.
Khadija's story is one out of thousands of experiences of many children in Sierra Leone. Don Bosco Fambul is a local NGO helping children, teenagers, and young people who live in situations of high vulnerability. They have a project called the Girl Shelter Plus that supports underage girls in prostitution. Sidiki Koroma from Don Bosco Fambul is the project coordinator for the Girl Shelter Plus. For those of you just watching, this is On the Spot. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Sidiki. Thank you so much for joining me here on the spot.
Thank you.
Sidiki, your organization, Don Bosco, work with a lot of young children. As an organization, what are you seeing?
Well, Don Bosco Fambul as a local NGO, a child protection agency, I think the key aim of Don Bosco Fambul is to see how best we can support children, teenagers, and young people in the high level of vulnerability, to give them the kind of attention that they need so that they can become useful and responsible citizens in the future.
Along the way, Girl Shelter Plus, there was a need to create such shelter.
Yeah.
What were you seeing as an organization that prompted the need for this shelter?
In 2017, we have another project within Don Bosco Fambul that is referred to as the Child Care Center, which targets street boys who are living in the streets. So they have, within their activities, they have a period where normally they go out in the streets of Freetown, right down to the western rural areas in search of street boys. So normally they conduct these activities in the night hours, like from 10 p.m. the night to 2 a.m. So it was one of these activities that they conducted, a month activities, when social workers of this particular department or this particular project come to the realization that there are so many girls also, teenage girls, minors that are living in the streets whom we are in the situation of prostitution. So that prompts the idea of developing a program that can support this target group.
From your experience, what is the youngest age you have seen in this in this trade of prostitution?
10.
10.
Yes.
And what are fueling this rise in numbers?
Well, I think one of the key factors, we all know within our society of Sierra Leone, we have a very large number of people living in abject poverty. So as a result of this, so many families are not able to cater for their children. And due to these economic challenges and everything, some of these girls decided that the best thing they can do is to go out there on the street, where they think they can easily get 5 leons, 10 leons, which they can use to feed themselves, have lunch or breakfast or whatever. So men out there are taking these situations as a chance to abuse these girls and to see what they can do with them sexually and whatever. So this is actually one of the key factors that is driving this situation to an increase, the issue of poverty. But also there are other minor issues like peer group influences, because there is this quest that they need material things also. Yeah. So all of these factors are contributing factors towards the rise of teenage prostitution within the country.
And there's also the case of sexual and gender-based violence, like we see from Khadija, and that is shared among so many stories of children who's been forced into prostitution. You're going to come back and tell us a little bit more about that. This is On the Spot. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, and we are talking about underage prostitution. The reality is that we do have a growing number of children who should be at home, who should be at school, who should be catered for, unfortunately, on the streets of not just only Freetown, but anywhere on the street, engaging in the act of prostitution in order to fend for themselves. Now, some of the children have cited, rape, sexual violence as some of the factors, as one of the factors that pushed them into prostitution. Is that the case? Is that what you have seen in your line of work?
Yeah, of course, we have come in contact with some of these cases who have got an experience of such kind of situation, and these rape issues and sexual violence issues most times, unfortunately, happen within the family.
Yeah.
And when these kind of situations do happen, they tend to see it as something very common or not so important, and it disturbs the girls mostly. So as a result of this, through these experiences that the girls have started experiencing from their own family circle, so most times it's an easy way for them. So when they are influenced easily to get into prostitution, they have no hesitation because they have already started experiencing something like this, and there was nothing done about it.
How can communities, how can you and me, how can the government take responsibility for such gross failure? The incidents of domestic violence, sexual violence, usually within the family circle, is quite high. It's real, but as a society, we don't speak enough of it. And you've mentioned sometimes we discard it. Even in some cases, you're told to keep quiet.
Yeah, well, I think the society as a whole have a lot to do with regards to these particular issues. Efforts have been made, to see how best they can put things in place to put a stop to this kind of activities or issues. But as an organization, we still think there is more to do from the side of the society, the government, even within the communities. There are more to be done because up to this day, up to this very moment, there are cases that are compromised, There are cases that, like I said earlier on, they have no great significance, they don't show significance towards it. And due to all of this, I think it's a contribution for these issues to continue within our society. So I think the issue of putting more effort is not just about talking about it, but is to take stringent actions, to make sure that people know that if this kind of things happen, this is what is going to be the consequence.
Absolutely. Is the strategy in fighting sexual and gender-based violence, prostitution, is it enough? And I ask that question because a lot of the efforts are usually centered around women and girls. And in many cases, we exclude the men who actually, 9 out of 10 are the perpetrators. So is that something that we need to rethink as a society? Are we failing to raise better, more responsible and more conscious men?
Well, I think as a society, that's also another aspect, because the whole thing is that most times we are concentrating on the victims, and those who are suffering from this kind of issues, failing also to address the issues of those that tend to be perpetrators. I think we really need to extend at a broader picture to see how we can have more responsible men within our society, and they should not use their advantage, resources, or whatever to embark on such kind of activities. I think the society really needs to preach this to the men and also make them realize that it's not just about fighting for the victim, but putting preventive measures in place for this kind of things not to continue or not to even happen within the society.
Yeah. There's that African saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think maybe we have lost that. You're going to come back and you're going to answer that. Because there's clearly a failing on the part of the family.
Sure.
We'll take a break and we'll be back. Siddiqui is definitely going to be back to answer more of that question. So welcome back. We're talking about underage prostitution. My name is Stella Bangura. My guest is Siddiqui Kuruma, who is the project coordinator for Girl Shelter Plus. I keep calling it girl child, which is understandable.
It's okay.
Yes. So I was asking about the failure of the family and how the family structure has so broken down that now we just talk about a lot of children, a lot of people coming from houses and not homes. How can the families also take responsibility and communities? Because gone are the days where a child would misbehave and they would be corrected, irrespective of whether they know that child or not.
Yeah, I think this is also a serious concern, because fighting the issue of child prostitution, child abuse, and all of these challenges against children, I think the whole thing starts from the family. And over the years, we have realized that there have been so many lapses from the side of the family. I don't know, it maybe because of economic challenges or whatever, but I think the whole thing needs to start from the family. So normally, us as social workers for Don Bosco Fambul, whenever we have the opportunity to come in contact with family members, because we always work with the family, whenever we come in contact with family members, I think these are the first things that we try to put to them through our mediation exercises. We also try to explain to them their roles and responsibilities towards building up their children. Not that they don't know their roles, but maybe just to remind them of key things that they really need to look at in building up these children. So I think there is the need actually for us to continue with this aspect of work, and it's not just for Don Bosco Fambul as an organization, but for the nation entirely. So it's also the part of the government to see how they can support this aspect of maybe educating or reminding family members as to what should be their role, their responsibilities, how they can help also in bringing up their children, and how they can avoid some of these challenges that do face their children.
Now that responsibility also does not exempt the government. You mentioned there are some measures that they need to take, or measures they need to put in place to safeguard our girls.
Sure.
What are those measures that they need to do?
Yeah, well, I think one of the keys should be the issue of education, education to the families, awareness raising. I think we have ministries like the Ministry of Social Welfare, Gender and Children's Affairs, and we also have other ministries that can partner together, the Ministry of Local Government. All of these ministries, even the ministries of youth, they all can come together to see how best they can build up designs programs that they can use to educate family members from within the home, within the community as a whole. So, but I think it needs to start with education, awareness raising, they need to organize these kind of activities within communities where they can call the people together and start telling them about the issues and what are the reasons why these issues are coming up, and what are the roles families need to play in putting these issues to an end.
In some other places, there are government-run shelters for girls, for children in general. There are other interventions and policies and structures in place just basically to support these girls, even providing a holistic, comprehensive medical support for children who've been through incidents of abuse, of rape, or who are even in the trade of prostitution. How much of that can our government and should our government be doing?
Yeah, is it true that the government need to extend their intervention? Like I mentioned earlier, I was talking about the issue of education awareness, and like you have said, I think it should not only be limited to that aspect, but government should think of how they can extend their intervention. Of course, the government is trying, past and present, they are trying, because the issue of Rainbow Center, the issue of the one-stop center, I think these are all interventions that government is trying to put in place to see how best they can address this issue. But again, I think we need to realize that the issue of building shelter is good, but again, globally, I think the world is now frowning against such kind of ideas because they think the family or the home is the best place for the child to be. But still, we can do something as a government to see how we can put structures in place. Of course, shelters are good ideas which are run and owned by governments with their full support, medical and other psychosocial issues, all being embedded in this kind of programs. I think they will help.
And your organization obviously have been supporting in so many fronts, children and people in vulnerable situations. You have this Girl Shelter Plus. Take us through a little bit on this shelter and how you're supporting a lot of girls out of prostitution through this.
So like the shelter is a rehabilitation home. It's a rehabilitation home, and we bring girls from the street to this home where we have social workers. We also have our junior staff who are complementing the work of social workers to accompany these girls through the rehabilitational activities or processes that we have within our program. So we have our school system, the non-formal school system within our facility, which also give opportunity to these girls, in order for them to be engaged in some kind of schooling system so that they can use it also to see how best they can prepare their mind. For those who may want to continue with formal school system, once we reunify them back with their family, we enroll them into schools, we give them full scholarship package for schooling. And for those who are not interested in maybe going back to the formal school system, we have our skills programs, different skills activities. We offer them the opportunity to choose different skills activities, basic one like hairdressing, makeup, tailoring, cosmetology, catering, and all of this. So we support them also fully in these aspects. So once they are able to go through these programs, it will help them in the future to become self-reliant and be able to support themselves, but not to depend on using their body to have money. Also, we have other activities. We have our counseling activities, which is very key for mending the wounds, psychological wounds, and all of this. We also have our medical facility. Of course, we have our clinic within the facility of Don Bosco Fambul. Once we come in contact with a girl from the street, I think the first thing is to make sure that that particular girl go through proper medical screening to know her medical status, because we all know what are the things that are the risky things that are open to prostitution. We know the issue of HIV and other sexual disease. So we take them to this clinic and make sure we screen them and give them all medical support that they need. We continue to have them within the shelter. We feed them. We have other support, clothing and all hygienic stuff. We take them through so many activities.
Full support.
Yes, we take them through so many activities, all in building them up and changing their mindsets towards the issue of prostitution.
So what's the success rate for those children who have gone through your shelter? What's the success rate?
I think we have a very large scale of successes that we have achieved as a department or as a project within Don Bosco Fambul. So like I said, from 2017 to now, we have worked with up to 600 and more girls. And out of these, we have successfully reunified like 500 back with their families. And most of these ones are engaged in school, going back to school. Some are engaging in skills activities. And part of our project, we have an extension which we call the Lonsar Group Home. So we have like 20 girls at Lonsar, where we rented 2 different homes, 10 girls to each home, and we have matrons that are there with them, accompanying them. We enroll them into the Maria Ines Vocational Institute, one of the best institutes within that particular community. Yes. And the institute is run by sisters. So we are partnering with the sisters to make sure that we support these girls to go through different skills activities for a period of 2 years. And
then
at the completion, at the completion of their programs, we support them with full package, skills package, startup kit, which they can use also to start up their own life and see how they can continue their life. So this is what we are doing as a project within Don Bosco Fambul.
Thank you so much, Siddiqui. Amazing work that you and your team is doing out there to support a lot of, the children that we see. It's very unfortunate that the society and we as individuals are failing and continue to fail our children on a daily basis, and more needs to be done. Thank you so much. Definitely will have you and your team. It's a continuous conversation, but this is as much as we can just sort of cram into today's conversation. Coming up next are my final words. In my final words, addressing prostitution would need interventions that take families out of poverty and focuses on the economic empowerment of women. The more economically empowered women are, the greater the power and choices we place in their hands. The power to stand up for themselves, to take charge of their life, and better take care of their families. Taking away the need for girls to be pushed into prostitution to support themselves or family. We know sexual and gender-based violence are some factors leading many young girls into prostitution. So we'll be talking about that in our next conversation. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear from you on our various social media handles, our website, and via email. Remember that you are only as great as you think and ready to walk for. Thanks to all our sponsors as well for the amazing work that they are all doing. Your support enables us to bring conversations like this to our viewers. Until next week when we'll be back, keep watching, keep talking, keep it on the spot.